Hello, it's Miss Maskery. We're going to talk about the third quarter curriculum. This is for first grade. We will begin by going over the third quarter standards. Those are the things that your child will be learning during the third quarter of the school year. Some of these will be a repeat of what we've already talked about in the first and second quarter. Some of these standards will be brand new to the third quarter. We'll also talk about interactive reading strategies and ideas to support learning at home. In January, you will receive a grade level proficiency matrix. This will help you understand where your child is currently in terms of the goal for first grade for the third quarter. So are they almost there? Are they progressing towards that goal? Or are they far from that goal and needing extra support? At the end of this presentation, there's a brief survey for our school. If you would take just a minute, I believe there's 5 questions. It's very short. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started with the reading standards. In the third quarter of the school year, students will learn to retell stories, including the key ideas and details, and understand the central message or lesson. This is a standard that your child has already worked on many times during the first and second quarter of the year. Students retell across their fingers, so they'll talk about the character, the setting, the major events, the problem, and the solution. They'll do that across their fingers and then tell the central message or the lesson on their palm. Students will also learn how to identify who is telling the story at various points in a text. This is a brand new standard for the third quarter. Students will learn to listen and find key words like I am feeling excited, we are going to the zoo. Those key words like I and we help students know that a character is telling the story. They'll also listen for words like she ran all the way home or the character's name to know that the narrator is telling the story, someone who is not in the story. Also new to the third quarter, students will be comparing and contrasting the adventures and experiences of characters in stories. To do this, we usually use series books. Series help us see the same familiar characters going on new adventures and trying different things. We'll focus on reading the Mr. Putter book series and the Henry and Mudge book series. All right, interactive reading. When you are reading with your child, our goal is to spend at least 20 minutes a night, either reading to your child or listening to your child read. When you're doing that, you want to ask open-ended questions so that your child is not only listening to the story, but thinking above and beyond the book itself and above and beyond the story. So you can do this by asking questions like, what are you wondering at a suspenseful part of the book? Or what do you notice? How is the character feeling and how do you know? What does this story remind you of is a great question to ask when you have finished reading a book. This helps make connections between the student and the text that they were reading. And then also asking, tell me about this book. You can do that with nonfiction books or fiction books. Having your child talk about the book that they listened to or the book that they read with you is such an important skill. That will really help build their comprehension and their confidence when they try reading these books independently. So, to support reading at home, in addition to asking open-ended questions, you can also use the resources that we use in the classroom. Things like Headsprout and Imagine Learning are great websites because they assess where students are in terms of their reading level, and then they build a curriculum that's designed just to help move their individual learning forward. Our goal is to shoot for about 20 minutes of Headsprout and Imagine Learning a day. In the classroom, we typically only have time for about 20 minutes at best. So if you're able to use these resources at home, it would be wonderful. We also want to work on increasing sight words by playing sight word games. There are about 200 words that show up the most often in our writing and in our reading. And those 200 words cannot always be sounded out, which is typically one of the first strategies that students use to help them decode or solve tricky words. So these words really need to be learned and just remembered. so that as soon as they see that word, they know exactly what it is. That will serve as a stepping stone for them in the sentences that they're reading, so that the really challenging words will free up space so that they can think about those really challenging words and use their phonics skill on them. Also, it's important to encourage your child to read environmental print. That could be things like cereal boxes, magazines that come to your house, anywhere, even when you're driving, having them reading signs and billboards. Really encourage them to look around and notice all of the text that they see around them. This is a document that I'll be sharing in this email. This has lots of different ideas to help your child learn sight words. I know that writing them over and over again is a very boring way to learn, and so there's lots of games and hands-on activities that you can do with your child so that the learning is more fun and engaging. In our classroom, we use the game Flash and What's Missing quite often, so those will be more familiar for your child. But all of these other strategies are excellent ways to help your child really learn and remember those tricky sight words. In writing during the third quarter, students will be writing about their opinion. When we do this, they will name the topic that they're writing about, they will state their opinion, and then supply reasons for that opinion. At the end, they'll have a sentence to wrap up their writing. Here's an example. A cat is the best pet, that's their opinion, because they can sleep on your lap. There's one reason. A cat is the best because they are really fun. A cat can climb a tree good. So this student provided their opinion that cats are the best pet. They provided 3 reasons to support that opinion, and they would still need to go back and add a wrap-up sentence, like, now you know why I think cats are the best pet. Go find a cat. Tips to support writing at home. These can be really fun. Encouraging your child to write grocery lists or to write letters to friends or even to Santa. These are great ways to make writing more fun and more personal for your child. Also, writing out a grocery list would give them great opportunities to try out their new phonics skills and their letter sound patterns. One important thing to note with writing is that we are not expecting students to write conventionally. That means that we're not expecting their spelling to look the same way adult spelling would look or published authors would look. We are really hoping that they are thinking about the sounds that they want to use in the word, and they're using the phonics skills that they do have to catch those sounds. So it's okay if your child's writing is very difficult for you to read right now. We will continue working on listening for those sounds and writing down the letters that would make sense. Now with that, phonics patterns that are known to your child, things that we have already taught, like letter sounds, beginning and ending blends, those are things that we are looking for your child to be using accurately and consistently on their own. So beginning blends like bull or cool, 2 letters that go together, but you can hear both sounds. Your child should be able to do that around this point in the school year. If they're a little behind, that's okay. We will keep working on their level to help them get to our goal target. In the third quarter, students will be learning about the consonant digraphs. That's 2 letters that go together that make one sound, and your child has actually been learning this for the last 2 weeks. So they do know the sh, ch, th, w, and k phonics blends or digraphs. And then they also know how to use the final E vowel pattern. So in words like cake or bake, they know that that E at the very end is what gives the A the power it needs to say its name. We will be learning about common vowel teams. This will be new learning for your child. Students will learn when 2 vowels go walking, the first one does the talking. So that means if they see 2 vowels together in a word, they know that the first vowel is going to get to say its name, and the second vowel will say nothing at all. We talk a lot in first grade about letter sounds and letter names and how those letters work together to do different things in words. So tips to support your learner at home with phonics. I think that this is most helpful when they're reading. If you're listening to your child read and they come to a word that's challenging, before you give them the word, just wait. Try not to make eye contact because they'll be looking at you with big puppy dog eyes. But at first, we really want to put the work back on them. They are learning strategies to help them solve these words. So instead of giving them the word, ask them questions like, what can you do to try to solve this word? Or what can you try? If they're still not sure, then you could ask them, what parts do you know? Have them look for those blends and look for those digraphs, look for those vowels, and think about what would make sense. If you've tried that and they are still not getting it, you can go ahead and give them the word, but then have them go back and read that sentence again with that new word in the sentence. Trying to put as much of the work onto your child when they are reading is the best thing that you can do because you want them to know that they are able to solve some of these words on their own. There will be words that are very tricky and very difficult, and we understand that. But we also want to make sure that students are trying the strategies that they are learning about. Those strategies are things like looking at the picture, thinking about what would make sense, looking for the parts that they know, going back and reading the sentence again. We call that getting a running start, and sometimes that helps them think about what would make sense in the sentence structure. All right, moving on to math. The third quarter is a big quarter for math. Students will continue working on adding and subtracting in word problems within 20. So when we teach word problems, we try to get students to think about it like a short story. We want students to be able to visualize the story and understand what will be happening. Will we be adding? Are we getting more of something? Or will we be subtracting with something taken away? While we're doing this, we will also be introducing the meaning of the equal sign. So in our classroom, we say the equal sign means that they are the same. We will be representing two-digit numbers with tens and ones. This is something that we talked about a lot in the first quarter of the school year, but we also understand that students are still coming to a stronger understanding of those tens and ones. So for example, if your child writes down the number 17 with a 7 and then a 1, that means that they are still learning about the groups of 10 and the leftover ones that are inside of that number. We really want students to understand the tens and the ones so that once they start doing higher level math with larger addition and subtraction problems, they're able to use that as a tool to help them solve math problems quickly and accurately. Students will also be learning how to add within 100, and we do that by adding a two-digit number and a one-digit number together. They'll also learn how to subtract and add with multiples of 10. So we will have problems like 86 minus a multiple of 10. So 86 minus 20 or 86 minus 40. We would not ask a first grader to solve a problem like 86 minus 14. That's something that they'll focus on more in second grade. Students will also learn how to mentally find something that is 10 more or 10 less than a number. This moves us right into the tips that you can do at home. Asking your child to count up from a random number or to count down from a random number is an excellent strategy to help them move forward with addition and subtraction. When they do this, you would say something like, count up from 88. And then after your child has counted about 5 or 6 numbers, you would give them a new problem. Count down from 82. And then again, about 4 or 5 numbers until you're ready to move on to another number. Practicing counting up and down from random numbers is a great way to help your child. If they're ready, you can move forward by asking them to count up and down by groups of 10. So you would say, what is 10 more than 76? What is 10 less than 76? If your child gets really fast with that, you could say, start at 34 and count up by 10s. Count up by 5s. Count up by 1s. Challenging your child to count in different ways really helps them solidify that number pattern, and it will help them so much with their mental math. And like we mentioned before, encourage your child to think about word problems like short stories. Asking them things like, well, what's happening? Can you picture that? Are they getting more? Are they getting less? Will we be adding or subtracting? All right, in science, we will continue to learn about the weather changes and seasonal patterns. This is something that we do every day during